You ever see someone praying, hands on their chest, standing in stillness, then bowing down, then falling to the ground with their forehead touching the floor, and think, why do they pray like that? I did, and here's the truth. I used to think it was weird, unfamiliar, too strict, too rigid, until I learned what it actually was, and then it made more sense than anything I was doing. Let me break this down for you, not religiously, but humanly, because prayer, especially in Islam, isn't just a ritual. It's a full-body reset, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and today I'm going to show you why that matters. Let's start with something simple. Muslims pray 5 times a day. Yes, 5. Morning, noon, afternoon, sunset, night. You hear that and think, whoa, that's a lot. But you scroll your phone 96 times before lunch. So maybe the problem isn't that Muslims pause to pray. Maybe the problem is that the rest of us never pause. The prayer, it's called salah. It's structured. It has steps. It's like yoga, meditation, and a TED talk on humility combined into one 5-minute ritual. You start standing. Why? Because you're presenting yourself to your creator just like you'd stand tall walking into a boardroom or courtroom. Then you bow, not to submit to a person, but to surrender your ego. Then, and here's the most powerful part, you fall into sujood, forehead to the ground. The lowest your body can go. Why? Because the greatest strength comes from knowing how to humble yourself. Let's talk science. When you put your forehead on the floor, you're increasing blood flow to the brain. That alone calms the nervous system. The controlled breathing during prayer, that's mindfulness. That's meditation. That's anxiety relief baked into your daily routine. We're all chasing peace through apps, therapy, vacations, but 5 times a day, Muslims get a full mind, body, spirit reset. No phone, no noise, just focus. And here's what blew my mind. It's not just the movements, it's the message. Every prayer begins with Allahu Akbar, which means God is greater. Greater than what? Greater than everything. Greater than your stress, your mistakes, your success. That phrase resets your ego, your ambition, your fear, all in one breath. You know what discipline looks like: waking up at dawn, washing your face, hands and feet, and standing to pray while the world sleeps. That's not extremism. That's excellence. That's devotion. That's what it means to live with intention, even when no one's watching. So yeah, at first I wondered why Muslims pray like that. And now I see it clearly. It's not just a religious obligation. It's a daily anchor. It's a spiritual detox. It's the most intentional routine I've ever seen. And in a world spinning out of control, that kind of grounded stillness makes total sense. Let's be real. The first question people ask when they see Muslims praying is usually, why are they doing that? But you know what? That's the wrong starting point. You don't ask why before you understand what's even happening. We rush to judgment without first slowing down enough to really look. So today, forget the why. Start with what. Because what they're doing 5 times a day is something most of us don't even do once. They're pausing. They're disconnecting from the chaos. They're aligning their body, their mind, their soul on purpose. That alone should grab your attention. See, when people look at Islamic prayer from the outside, they just see movements. They see someone standing, bowing, prostrating, forehead on the ground, and think that's strange, or that looks like a performance. But they're missing the most important thing. Every single move has a purpose, a reason, a deep meaning, and it's been done exactly this way for over 1400 years, not out of habit, but out of intention. Let me walk you through it. First, Muslims stand. Why? Because that's a posture of presence. When you stand still, hands folded, facing one direction, what are you doing? You're saying, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm focused. It's not passive, it's deliberate. You're aligning yourself with something bigger than your day-to-day problems. Then they recite verses. Not just any verses, but verses from the Quran. Words believed to be divinely revealed. Now, whether you're Muslim or not, this isn't about belief right now. It's about understanding. These words are recited in Arabic, not because it's exotic, but because it's consistent. The words haven't changed for over a millennium. Think about that. A person in Jakarta is reciting the same phrases in the same rhythm as someone in Detroit. That's not just prayer, that's unity. Next, they bow, and I want you to really imagine this moment. A grown adult, who might be a CEO, a teacher, a nurse, an athlete, bowing from the waist in total stillness. Why? Because that motion tells your body and your brain, I'm letting go of my pride right now. In a world obsessed with image, dominance, and likes, this is a full-body act of humility. And when's the last time you actually bowed before anything or anyone out of respect, not submission? But it doesn't stop there. The most powerful part comes next, prostration, sujood. That moment when your forehead, the highest point on your body, the most protected part, touches the ground. That's not random. That's intentional. That's surrender. And here's the paradox. In the moment that you lower yourself the most physically, spiritually, you rise the highest. Because in that moment, you are the most honest, the most vulnerable, and the most connected. You can't fake that position. You can't be full of yourself when your face is in the dirt. That move, that's the ultimate ego check. That's clarity. And finally, they sit, calmly. Not rushing out the door, not checking their phone. Sitting in silence between movements, breathing, grounding, reflecting. Imagine how different your life would feel if 5 times a day you gave yourself just a few minutes to realign your body and mind like that. So again, don't jump to why so fast. Understand what Muslims are doing. See it, learn it, appreciate it. Because what looks strange from the outside might actually be the very thing you've been needing on the inside. And once you get what's happening, the why almost answers itself. When people hear that Muslims pray 5 times a day, the first assumption is, wow, that's a lot of ritual. It sounds rigid, repetitive, like a box to check or a burden to carry. But what if I told you that it's not about ritual at all? It's about reset. What if I told you that 5 times a day, Muslims don't just perform a religious duty, they step away from the noise, the pressure, the scrolling, the endless mental clutter, and they recalibrate. We live in a world where everything pulls at your attention. Your phone buzzes, your calendar's full, your mind is racing before your feet even hit the floor in the morning. And that's exactly why this kind of daily structure actually makes total sense. Think about it. When was the last time you gave yourself even 2 minutes to pause and breathe intentionally? Not because you were forced to, but because you chose to. Muslims pray 5 times a day because they're human, not because they're perfect. Because just like the rest of us, they forget, they drift, they get angry, they get distracted, they lose sight of what matters. And prayer, it's the moment that pulls them back. 5 specific times, built into the day, that are strategically spaced out, before sunrise, midday, afternoon, sunset, and evening. It's not random, it's rhythm. Every time life starts to drag you into stress or ego, or temptation or chaos, there's a reset, a clean break, a pause that says stop, come back to center. You think that's extreme. I think that's genius. You know what's actually extreme? Living every day on autopilot, spinning through your tasks, and realizing only at bedtime that you never once slowed down to think. And let me tell you something else. Prayer isn't about performance. It's not about being watched or praised. In fact, most of the time it's done in private, in your room, at work, in a quiet corner. It's not for anyone but you and your creator. That's powerful, because so many of us are living externally. We wake up and perform for the world, online, at work, in relationships, and we forget to check in with ourselves, to check in with something higher. That's why this kind of prayer isn't a ritual. It's a reset button for your soul. And here's the most beautiful part. Each prayer only takes a few minutes. That's it. You're not sitting for an hour. You're not chanting for days. You're stepping away for maybe 5-10 minutes to reconnect with your values, your humility, your peace. And then you go back to your life, back to your work, back to your family. But you go back different, more grounded, more clear. This world moves fast. The expectations are non-stop, and if you're not careful, you lose yourself. That's what burnout is. That's what anxiety feeds on. The feeling that you're being pulled in 100 directions, and you're not in control of any of it. But Muslims are given this built-in structure, 5 little anchors in their day, to stop the spinning, to remember who they are, to reconnect with who's really in control. And you know what? That's not rigid. That's not burdensome. That's brilliant. So when someone asks, why would anyone do that 5 times a day? The better question might be, why wouldn't you? Because the truth is, in a world that's constantly distracting you, anything that brings you back to yourself, anything that resets your mind and calms your heart isn't a ritual. It's a lifeline. Most people think prayer is just about words, about repeating something over and over. But what if I told you the real power isn't just in what is said, it's in how the body moves while saying it? Because when Muslims pray, they're not just speaking, they're using their entire body to communicate something much deeper, something powerful, something human. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how your body reacts when you're stressed? Shoulders tighten, jaw clenches, breathing gets shallow. You don't even realize it, but your body's constantly responding to your mental state. So why wouldn't it work in reverse? Why wouldn't your body, through intentional movement, help lead your mind to a better place? That's exactly what Islamic prayer does. It uses movement, deliberate, repeated, meaningful movement, to shift your state. Let's break it down. You start by standing still, feet planted, hands folded, and suddenly you're still. In a world that's constantly rushing, just standing in silence is a radical act. That posture says, I'm present, I'm ready, I'm focused. Already your nervous system starts to slow down. Then you bow, and this isn't just symbolic. That bow, where your back is parallel to the ground, sends a powerful message from your body to your mind. I am not above everything. And in that moment, your ego, the part of you that's always trying to prove, control, or dominate, takes a back seat, but it goes deeper. The next move is sujood, prostration. Your forehead touches the ground. Your hands are flat. Your knees are bent. You are physically in the lowest position a human being can go. And here's the paradox. This is the most elevated moment of the entire prayer. You are closest to your Creator, most honest with yourself, and the most at peace. That posture, it's not weakness. It's not submission to any human being. It's surrender of the ego to something higher than yourself. And that's where the real strength is. Because we're taught to rise, to hustle, to dominate, but sometimes the greatest power is knowing when to pause, to lower yourself, to remember your place in the grand scheme of things. And from a psychological standpoint, it's genius. When your body is low, grounded, still, your mind follows. Stress begins to ease. Fear starts to shrink. That's not just spiritual wisdom, that's neuroscience. We know posture affects mood. Amy Cuddy did the research. Power poses shift confidence. So what do you think happens when someone performs a prayer posture that symbolizes humility and surrender? Your nervous system picks that up. Your brain starts rewiring. Each movement flows into the next. No rushing, no distractions, just breath, silence, intention. The rhythm itself slows you down, calms your inner dialogue. And 5 times a day, Muslims repeat this sequence, not mindlessly, but mindfully. That's the key. It's not about checking a box. It's about training the body and mind to remember what matters. And here's the truth. You don't need to be Muslim to understand the value in that. The idea that your body can lead your soul, that motion can change emotion, is something we all experience. Ever gone for a walk and felt your whole mindset shift? Ever taken a deep breath and felt instantly calmer? So when you see someone praying and wonder why they move the way they do, standing, bowing, prostrating, know this, they're not just moving for tradition, they're moving for transformation. They're using the power of their body to align their thoughts, quiet their heart, and reset their soul. And honestly, that's something we could all learn from. You hear the word discipline, and most people flinch. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? Restrictive, like something that takes joy away from life. We live in a culture that sells the opposite: freedom, spontaneity, do what you feel. So when someone sees Muslims praying 5 times a day, at specific times, every single day, even when they're busy, even when they're tired, it looks like a burden. It looks like they're giving up their freedom. But that's the biggest misunderstanding of all, because real discipline doesn't take your freedom away. It creates it. Let me explain. Think about anything meaningful you've ever accomplished. Your career, your health, your relationships. Did it come from doing what you felt like doing every moment of the day? No. It came from structure, from consistency, from making commitments and keeping them. That's discipline. And you know what it gives you? Control, focus, momentum. That's real freedom. And Islamic prayer, salah, is exactly that. It's not random. It's not done when it's convenient. It's done at specific times, before the sun rises, midday, mid-afternoon, sunset, and night. These aren't just time slots. They're checkpoints. They break up your day and say, pause, recalibrate. Not once, not when you feel like it. 5 times, every day. Now that kind of consistency, it builds something inside you. It rewires your brain. It teaches you to show up even when it's hard, even when no one's watching. That's what discipline is. Not motivation, not mood. Discipline is doing the right thing, even when you don't feel like it. And here's the irony. While most people think this kind of practice is rigid, the truth is, it's grounding. It gives you something to hold on to. It protects your mind from the chaos around you. It carves out time for reflection, no matter how fast the world is spinning. Let me put it another way. You don't build mental strength by accident. You don't wake up one day calm, confident, clear, and spiritually aligned without putting in work. And prayer 5 times a day is that work. It's the daily training of the soul. Just like going to the gym strengthens your body, this strengthens your identity, your patience, your perspective. And here's what's wild. Most people want this. We crave it. We know we need boundaries with our time. We say we want to be more present, more focused, less anxious. But then we skip the work that creates that peace. We chase hacks and apps instead of habits and systems. Prayer in this context isn't about religion alone. It's a life system. It's a framework for how to be you, consistently, calmly, and clearly, in a world full of distraction. And guess what happens when you commit to that kind of discipline? Day after day, you stop living on defense. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it, because you've already centered yourself 5 times before the world even tries to throw you off course. That's not rigidity. That's mastery. So when you see a Muslim take time out of their day to stop work, to step away from their phone, to get up before dawn, understand what you're witnessing. You're not watching someone trapped in a system. You're watching someone freed by one. Someone who has chosen structure not to be limited, but to live more fully, more intentionally, more powerfully. Because in a noisy, impulsive world, discipline isn't a prison, it's a superpower. Let's talk about something nobody likes to admit. We're all a little addicted to being seen, to being noticed, to performing. Whether it's online, at work, even in our relationships, we live in a world where everything is documented, liked, shared, judged. So much of what we do has become about being visible. But what happens when you strip that away? What happens when you do something not for applause, not for likes, not even for validation, but for the simple reason that it's meaningful to you? That's exactly what Islamic prayer represents. You may see it in public sometimes, in airports or parks or offices, but most of the time, it happens behind closed doors, in bedrooms, in quiet corners, no spotlight, no audience, just a person alone, standing, bowing, whispering their fears, their hopes, their gratitude to the one who needs no introduction. And in that act, there's something so raw, so honest, so deeply human, because we're not used to doing things when nobody's watching. We're trained to measure success by reaction. Did anyone notice? Did they compliment me? Did I get it right? But Muslims pray 5 times a day, whether they feel inspired or not, whether they had a good day or a terrible one, whether they're in a luxury hotel or a roadside rest stop. It doesn't matter. Why? Because it's not about who sees you. It's about who you become. That's powerful. Prayer in this way becomes an internal compass, a mirror. You're not performing. You're confronting yourself. Every time you stand on that prayer mat, it's not about the outside world. It's about your inner world, your flaws, your strengths, your regrets, your growth. And that's not easy, because most of us avoid silence. We avoid stillness. You know why? Because when everything gets quiet, we finally hear our own thoughts, and sometimes we don't like what we hear. But prayer invites you into that space, not to shame you, but to help you face it with grace, to realign, to reset. That kind of practice creates integrity. Think about it. When you do something repeatedly in private, just because it matters to you and your creator, it builds a kind of authenticity that nothing else can. You don't need recognition. You don't need approval. You've got something deeper. You've got alignment. And here's the thing. When you build that muscle of private integrity, it spills over into everything else. You become the kind of person who does the right thing even when no one's looking. You keep promises. You follow through. You show up fully because you've trained your heart to care more about purpose than performance. And isn't that what we all want? To stop living like we're on stage all the time. To stop needing validation just to feel like we matter. Muslim prayer is a reminder that your most important connection isn't public, it's private. It's not loud, it's quiet. It's not about appearance, it's about alignment. So when you see someone praying or hear about this practice, understand this. It's not about ritual. It's not about being seen. It's about seeing yourself clearly. And in a world full of noise, distraction, and performance, that kind of clarity, that kind of private devotion, it's rare and it's powerful beyond words. Most of us go through life carrying weight we never fully release. Stress, anxiety, guilt, regret. Our minds are full, our hearts are heavy, and our bodies, they hold on to it too. And when life gets overwhelming, what do we usually do? We distract ourselves. We scroll. We binge. We suppress it and hope it fades. But what if there was a way to release that? Not by escaping it, but by facing it fully, mindfully, spiritually. That's what Islamic prayer does. And this is where it goes deeper than most people realize. Because yes, prayer is a spiritual obligation in Islam, but it's also a deeply personal and emotional form of release. It's a reset, not just for the soul, but for your nervous system, for your mental health, for your inner stability. Let me break it down. 5 times a day, Muslims go into a space where they disconnect from everything external, the chaos, the noise, the expectations. They wash their hands, their face, their arms, their feet, a ritual called wudu. But it's not just about physical cleanliness. It's symbolic. It's saying, I'm letting go of what's weighing me down. Think about that. Every prayer begins with a literal act of cleansing. You leave behind the mess and come in clean, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Then they stand, and they breathe, and they begin to recite words that remind them you are not alone. You are not in control of everything. And that's okay. That kind of reminder multiple times a day softens the pressure we all put on ourselves. And then comes the movement, bowing, prostrating, sitting. These aren't just motions. These are acts of surrender. Each position tells the body and the mind, you can let go now. You don't need to carry it all. You don't need to figure everything out alone. You are supported by something greater than yourself. You can cry in prayer. You can ask for help. You can say nothing at all and just be still. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't have to have it all together to show up. In fact, prayer invites you to show up exactly as you are. Broken, confused, grateful, angry, hopeful. There's no filter, no performance, just you, raw and real. And you know what happens when you show up like that day after day? You release the buildup, the emotional clutter, The overwhelm. You make space in your heart and in your head. You calm your breath. Your shoulders drop. You begin to believe again, not just in something greater, but in your own ability to endure, to stay grounded, to keep going. That's not just spiritual healing. That's emotional intelligence. That's inner strength, and we need that more than ever. Because the world doesn't slow down, your responsibilities won't magically disappear, but when you create intentional pauses, like Muslims do through prayer, you take your power back. You stop reacting to life and start choosing how to move through it. So many people think prayer is about rules or fear, but what if at its core, prayer is about peace, about release, about learning to show up, breathe, let go, and begin again, over and over. In a world that teaches us to push through, to toughen up, to numb our emotions, prayer invites us to feel, to release, to heal. And honestly, that kind of release, done consistently with intention, might just be one of the most powerful mental health tools on the planet. So here's the truth. You might have started this speech thinking that Muslim prayer is strange, too much, too rigid, maybe even outdated. But now you see it differently, because this isn't just a religious practice. It's not robotic. It's not meaningless repetition. It's intentional. It's structured. It's brilliant. 5 times a day, Muslims aren't just checking a box. They're resetting their mind, grounding their soul, calming their nervous system, and realigning with what really matters. Through movement, stillness, breath, and silence, they're doing what most of us desperately need to do. They're pausing the noise and choosing presence, choosing purpose. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. And in a world that constantly pulls you away from yourself, this kind of discipline, this kind of connection is powerful. It's a release. It's a reset. It's a conversation with something higher and a confrontation with yourself. You don't have to be Muslim to understand the beauty in that, because deep down, we're all looking for peace. We're all trying to find our center again. And this ancient practice that billions of people do quietly, humbly, daily, is a system that makes sense. It's not strange. It's smart. And maybe the question we should be asking isn't, why do Muslims pray like this? Maybe the better question is, why aren't the rest of us? Because in a world full of chaos, this kind of alignment, this kind of stillness, isn't just spiritual, it's revolutionary.